Imagine you're on a boat with your family on a blue ocean vacation. Water stretches as far as the eye can see, and everything seems normal. But then in a moment, everything changes. Suddenly, the seawater disappears, leaving you stranded on a desolate stretch of land beneath the sea. Many questions will arise in your mind. Where did all the seawater go? Will it ever return? So, let's find the answers to all these questions in this film that will leave you breathless. The story begins with a family on a boat in the middle of the Caribbean Ocean. They have come to celebrate the birthday of a boy named Ben. They were all overjoyed to create a memorable moment, but they didn't know that this happiness would be short-lived. For a moment, everything seemed normal. While they were all enjoying the ocean view, Bun's mom jumped into the sea to swim. Bun and his father were busy fishing. Suddenly, Bun's mom, Julia, felt something large circling around her. When she looked around, she couldn't see anything. But then, suddenly, something pulled her under the sea, and the equipment on their boat began rapidly changing direction, as if something big was happening. Bun and Tom couldn't fully grasp this changing situation because they were too busy fishing. Meanwhile, Julia realized that she had drifted far away from her boat in just a few seconds and was drowning. Trying to save herself, she began shouting loudly to Tom. But since Julia is far away from the boat, no one notices her. Julia feels the seawater rapidly receding backwards. Julia calls out to her daughter, Cassie. But Cassie is enjoying the sunlight with her headphones on. But Cassie and Tom have no idea that Julia has gone swimming in the sea. Julia is gradually drifting further away from them. But then, fortunately, Tom hears Julia's faint voice. He spots her, and Tom immediately jumps into the water to save her. Meanwhile, Ben starts the boat's engine and takes her to them. Luckily, Tom saves Julia from drowning. When they reach the boat, Ben and Cassie pull them both onto the boat, saving Julia's life. On the boat, Tom is furious with his daughter, Cassie. He asks, "Where was your attention? I told you to keep an eye on your mom when she goes swimming." Cassie apologizes and says she was wearing headphones. Well, Julia is safe now. Tom says no one will go swimming without informing them, and if anyone does, they'll inform someone first. They all agree, and it's getting dark. So they all start preparing to celebrate Bunny's birthday. After celebrating her birthday that night, Cassie gets a video call from her boyfriend. Cassie tells him they're all having a great time on the boat. But her boyfriend tells Cassie that they should all come to the surface quickly. They're telling us on TV that something big is about to happen, something very unusual for the whole world. Upon hearing this, Cassie notices that a huge storm is approaching the city behind her boyfriend. She becomes a little worried as they were not in a safe place at the time. She begins to talk to him further when suddenly their connection is cut off. She goes and tells her parents about this. Afterward, they begin checking the safety of their boat. While doing so, they notice that many whales and sharks are hovering around their boat, although whales or sharks are not found in this area at all. He was an atomic ocean explorer, so he knew that whales and sharks do this before a major storm. They had already anticipated the approaching storm, but they had to deal with the shark first. Before they could do anything, their boat receives a powerful jolt. They are all terrified. Tom realizes that a large creature has collided with the boat's underside. He goes down into the water to check. He sees a large dent underneath the boat, clearly caused by a large shark. After checking this, when Tom comes back up, he finds a very deep wound on his shoulder. Seeing this, Julie stitches his wounds. Here, Tom tells his family that the shark's dent has damaged the engine. Now, we won't be able to move the boat forward. They're all stranded in the middle of the ocean, and their only option is to call for help. But when Casey goes outside to call for help, there's no signal. Their boat's communications aren't picking up any signals. They're all very worried about why everything suddenly stopped. In this difficult time, Tom checks their provisions. They only have enough food for 4 days and nothing else. But their one small hope for survival is that they were on a shipping route, and some ship passing by would see them, and then they'll be able to rescue them. While they're talking, they hear a loud noise from outside. When they looked outside, they saw a large meteoroid heading towards them. It could collide with their ship. To avoid it, Tom quickly started his boat's engine. But he knew that doing so would destroy his boat, and that's exactly what happened. Their boat's engine was completely damaged. But they had no other option. If he hadn't started the engine and moved the boat forward, the meteoroid would have hit them directly. Tom realized that the objects falling from the sky were actually satellites. That's why radio and telephone signals suddenly stopped working. Before they could fully recover from this tragedy, a second meteoroid also started heading towards them. Now they could do nothing else to save themselves. So they went to the bottom of the boat and put on life jackets so that if the boat capsized, they wouldn't all drown in the water. While they were inside the boat, it began to sway violently. They all realized they wouldn't survive. Suddenly, they heard a loud noise and they all fainted. When they regained consciousness, they discovered they were still alive. Although they had certainly sustained injuries, their boat was surprisingly full of holes, but water wasn't getting in. When the entire family got out of their boat and looked around, they were astonished. They saw no water beneath their boat. Fish were lying on the ground around them, and their boat was in a desolate, mountainous area. It was as if they had entered another world. The place had completely changed. Where there had been water the previous night, it now looked like high mountains and craters. They all quickly realized that they're not in a desert, but still in the middle of the ocean. It's just that all the ocean water has shifted. Tom quickly takes out his compass and starts looking at the direction, and he realizes that something must be wrong with the Earth. The Earth's poles have changed. The North Pole has been replaced by the South Pole, which has been replaced by the South Pole, and therefore, all the ocean water has moved to where the land once lived. And now, land has replaced the ocean. Everyone was shocked when they found out. Another terrifying thing Tom told them was that all the people who were alive on the ground during all this must have died. This deeply distressed Casey. She locked herself in the cabin, knowing her boyfriend was no longer alive. But now there was something else they were about to learn, and it was going to shock them. Julie began gathering the leftover food, and Bun released all his birthday balloons into the air, hoping that anyone still alive would come to them, and they could all face this situation together. Tom then tried to contact someone via radio. He expected no response, but surprisingly, he did. This response was given to him by a captain named NATO, who, like Tom's family, knew the story of the ocean shift because he, too, was in his submarine. Tom asks the captain, "What should we do in this situation?" Then the captain tells them something that shakes the ground beneath their feet. The captain tells Tom that the Earth's poles will return to their original positions in about a week. This means that after a week, the ocean will return to its original position and its waves will be very dangerous. So the captain tells Tom, "I'll survive in the submarine, but you should quickly find a high place for yourself and go there, because there you'll have a better chance of survival." Upon hearing this, Julie immediately tells her children to pack their bags. Tom tells the captain that even inside his submarine, there's a better chance of survival. "So, will you take my family inside?" The captain says, "Of course I want to, but I can't because my submarine has been destroyed at the same time, and there's only room for 2 people. I can take 1 person inside, but 1 will still be outside." Tom then requests the captain, "Please somehow take my 2 children inside. In exchange, I'll give you all the food we have left." The captain agrees, and Captain Tom manually maps out his location to Tom. Tom then estimates the submarine's location and tells his wife that they'll reach it within a day. This means they can safely get their children there before the sea level rises. And thus, both of their children's lives can be saved. The next morning, the entire family is ready for their journey. Tom sees a strange man walking towards them in the distance with his dog. He realizes the man is injured, so he wants to help him. He approaches him with a bottle of water. After drinking Tom's water instead of thanking him, the man attacks him, and Julie, standing at a distance, witnesses this. So the man attacks Tom with a knife he was carrying, killing him. Then, he moves on to Julie. She couldn't save her husband, but she quickly goes on board and locks her 2 children in the cabin. She then gives Casey a flare gun and tells him to use it when they're in dire straits. The man reaches their boat while they're talking, and Julie runs into the bathroom to escape. The killer begins searching their boat, and as soon as he finds food, he starts eating. He pounces on the food as if he's been hungry for days. After dinner, he starts looking for Julie. He heads straight for the cabin, but upon reaching there, he discovers that no one is there where the sound was coming from. In fact, Julie had already escaped through a hole in the boat, but the man's dog spots Julie and starts barking at her. To silence her, Julie is forced to kill the dog and hide under the boat. Although she doesn't find the killer, when he peeks out and sees his dog dead, he realizes Julie is out of the boat. As he climbs down to catch her, Julie returns to the boat and, using a broken glass, manages to sneak back inside. But a short while later, Julie is caught by the man. He grabs her by her hair and begins to beat her. He begins to strangle Julie. She begins to fight the killer to save herself. Cassie, who was watching all this from the cabin, remembers that this is a good opportunity to use the flare gun. She fires it, knocking the man away, but it doesn't do much to him. It gives them a chance to escape, and the boat catches fire. Julie quickly exits the boat to save her 2 children. While leaving the boat, the killer attacks Julie again, but this time Julie kicks him back. Once outside, Cassie and Bane cry upon seeing their father's dead body. They hadn't expected this at all. Bane blames himself for his father's death. He says, "I wouldn't have released the balloon, nor would the man have come here after seeing them." Julie, still crying and clinging to her husband, sees the killer emerge from their burning boat, and it's no longer safe for them to stay. So she takes her 2 children and flees. Moments later, their burning boat explodes. While fleeing, they flee. They were very tired. So they stopped behind a hill to rest, thinking the killer had given up. Ben was crying here too. Cassie offered him clean water to drink, trying to console him. But Ben refused to drink it. Julie explained to her son that it wasn't his fault. He had just thrown balloons in the air to call for help. Just then, Julie noticed the killer was still chasing them. The 3 quickly began running to escape. They were very tired from running, but every time they looked back, the killer was still following them. Now they didn't stop. They continued running until they reached a place where poisonous water was present. Anything could have happened to them while leaving here, but Julie orders her children to pass through. After being exposed to the toxic acid, their condition has deteriorated significantly, and Julie realizes that Bun is dehydrated. She gave Bun the last few drops of water, but even that little didn't quench his thirst. Now, how dare she lose her courage? She asks, "Where we're heading, maybe there's a submarine somewhere." Julie scolds her, "Shut up and do as I say. We'll move on, and I know I'll save you." At Julie's insistence, they start walking again, and as they move forward, they spot a plane that must have crashed into the ocean years ago. They hide inside the plane, and Julie looks at the family photo they took last night. Seeing the photo, everyone remembers Tom. These 3 men couldn't believe all that had happened to them in a single day. It was late at night, and they were exhausted. Cassie and Bun had fallen asleep. Just then, a voice woke Casey. She looked outside and saw the killer following them. Now, all 3 had to escape this killer at all costs. So Cassie sat in the same spot and pretended to be asleep. The killer thought she was asleep, and as he came to attack, Julie seized the opportunity and attacked from behind. This time, Julie was furious. She attacked him so hard that she nearly killed him. Finally, their danger was averted, and Julie fell asleep peacefully. When they woke up in the morning, they found the killer's body in a terrible state. Some creature had cut him to pieces, hollowing him out from within. This made them realize that there was something dangerous nearby. Now they had to quickly reach the captain's submarine. Julie was looking at her map. Meanwhile, Ben was wandering around looking for water. Further ahead, he saw water and began drinking without thinking. Julie had warned him not to because the pond was poisonous. But Ben was so thirsty that he disobeyed Julie. Julie saw him and ran to stop him from drinking. But by then, he had already drunk a lot of water. After a while, Ben became ill and was unable to walk. So Julie and Casey built a shelter there and rested for a while. Then Julie heard strange noises. When she looked outside, she realized that a large number of crabs were heading towards them, and they started running to escape. After walking a little further, they saw a huge ship in the distance. It was a cargo ship with numerous containers inside. Many people had taken refuge within these containers. Upon seeing these 3, they all hid inside. In reality, they weren't running away from these 3, but rather from the crabs chasing them. They approached the container and began pleading and requesting them to open the door. But they wouldn't open it for them. A large army of crabs was chasing them, so they had to do something themselves. They had no other option. So Julian and her 2 children decided to climb to the top of the container. Julian first led her 2 children to the top of the container. As Julian climbed up, a crab came and bit her on the leg. But she somehow managed to free herself and climbed back up. Julian then bandaged her wound with her scarf, after which she fainted. Casey and Ben watch as the crabs bite into the container and attack the people inside. They try to kill the crabs with the weapons they have, but the crabs were too numerous. They couldn't withstand them, and they killed everyone inside the container. The next morning, Julian regained consciousness. She found that both of her children were missing. She was terrified that something might have happened to them. But then in the distance, she saw Casey and Ben approaching, who had actually gone in search of food and weapons. Anyway, the crabs were gone now. Julian healed her crab spin wounds while Ben collected the dead people's weapons inside the container to use for his own safety, and they also found some food there. Afterward, Julian contacted the captain, who told her that he had also been attacked by these creatures and was now seriously injured. "I can't help you." He also tells Julian that the ocean waters are going to recede very soon. That's why these sea creatures are back here again. Julian starts crying because they didn't even know which direction to take to reach the submarine, having lost their map in the rush all night. So, to make things easier for them, the captain fires his flare gun into the air and Ben spots it. But the place is far away. They quickly start moving towards the submarine, but reaching it still seems impossible, as they have to cross a rocky path where they might again encounter the crabs that could have killed them. Now, Casey also begins to feel sorry for her mother, wondering what will happen to her. "The captain will keep my brother and me in the submarine." "But what about Julian? The water is about to come in soon." Julian tells Casey, "You don't need to think about all this. When we all reach the marine, we'll decide what to do there." She tells Casey, "Let's move on." As they move on, their luck betrays them once again. A landslide occurs and a large boulder falls on Julian, who was at the back, trapping her. Casey doesn't want to move on without her mother, but she makes her swear to save herself and her brother at all costs. So Casey takes her brother and sets off. When they reach the submarine, they find no one there. They both start banging loudly on the submarine's door. But then the captain, badly injured, appears from behind. The captain explains, "Look, the submarine can accommodate 3 people, and my chances of survival are slim. So even if I manage to escape the water and reach the surface, I won't survive." Hearing this, Casey quickly turns back and starts running towards Julian. Another wave of crabs begins to arrive. Julian starts shooting them with her gun, but she runs out of bullets. Before any of the crabs can attack her, Casey offers her a hand from above, and with his help, Julie manages to escape, and they quickly run back to the submarine. Without wasting much time, they board the submarine, and the terrifying crabs follow them. But then they see a huge, terrifying wave coming toward them, several meters high. It looked incredibly dangerous. It quickly and forcefully crashed into their submarine, knocking them unconscious. When Julie regained consciousness, she was surprised to discover that their submarine wasn't underwater, but rather, the massive wave had swept it into a city that had been completely destroyed. It was clear that humanity had been wiped out from the Earth, and the film ends with this scene. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to our channel and like it. See you in the next video.